The stars looked different in this part of space, Jake Morrison thought as he stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty. The human ship had been traveling for 3 months now, far from Earth and deeper into unknown space than any human had gone before. Jake was the captain of this exploration mission, and he felt proud of his crew. They were good people who wanted to find new worlds and maybe new friends among the stars. The Liberty was not a warship. It had some weapons for protection against space pirates or dangerous animals they might find on new planets, but it was built for peace. The ship carried scientists, doctors, and engineers who wanted to learn about the universe. Jake had always believed that when humans met other smart beings from space, they would shake hands and become friends. Lisa Parker worked in the engine room deep inside the ship. She was the best engineer Jake had ever known. Lisa could fix anything and make the ship run better than it was supposed to. She had brown hair that she always kept tied back when she worked, and oil stains on her hands from fixing machines. Lisa loved her job because engines made sense to her in a way that people sometimes did not. Ben Collins sat at the communications desk on the bridge. He was young and smart, and he could speak 12 different human languages. Ben had spent years learning how to talk to people who were different from him. He believed that most fights happened because people did not understand each other. If he could just find the right words, he thought, anyone could become friends. Amy Brooks was the tactical officer, which meant she helped Jake make smart choices during dangerous times. Amy had studied every battle that humans had ever fought. She knew about ancient wars with swords and modern fights with spaceships. Amy did not like fighting, but she knew that sometimes good people had to fight to protect what they loved. Ryan Kelly worked at the weapons station, but he hoped he would never have to use the guns. Ryan was a quiet man who liked to read books and play chess. He was very good at seeing patterns and solving puzzles. His job was to protect the ship if something bad happened, but he always hoped for peace first. The Liberty had been exploring empty space for days when the sensors found something new. There were ships ahead, but they were not human ships. The design was strange and beautiful, with smooth curves and bright lights. Jake felt excited because this was why they had come so far from home. The alien ships belonged to the Zephyrian Empire, though the humans did not know this yet. The Zephyrians had been the strongest military force in this part of space for more than 100 years. They had big guns and fast ships, and they had never lost a war. When they found new people in space, those people always gave up quickly or got destroyed. Fleet Commander Vextal was in charge of the 3 Zephyrian ships that found the Liberty. Vextal was a proud warrior who had won many battles. He had blue skin and 4 arms, and he wore the golden armor that showed his high rank. Vextal looked at the strange human ship on his screen and smiled. This would be another easy victory for the Empire. Jake ordered Ben to send messages to the alien ships. Ben used every way he knew to say hello in a friendly way. He sent pictures that showed humans were peaceful. He sent music that was beautiful and calm. He sent math problems that any smart being could understand, to show that humans wanted to learn and share knowledge. The Zephyrians received all these messages, but they did not understand them the way Ben hoped they would. In their culture, only weak people asked for peace. Strong people took what they wanted and made others obey. When Vextal saw the human messages, he thought the humans were afraid and trying to surrender, before the fight even started. Vextal gave orders to his ships. The Zephyrians charged their plasma cannons and aimed them at the Liberty. They did not send any warnings or demands. In their mind, this was just another day of conquering new territory for the Empire. Amy Brooks saw the alien ships getting ready to attack. Her instruments showed energy building up in their weapons. She told Jake what was happening, but she could not believe it. The humans had been nothing but friendly, and now these aliens were going to shoot first and ask questions later. Jake felt sad and angry at the same time. He had dreamed of this moment for years, the first time humans would meet aliens. He had imagined sharing stories and learning about their cultures. He had never thought it would start with violence. But Jake was also a good captain, and he knew his first job was to keep his crew safe. The first plasma blast hit the Liberty's shields and made the whole ship shake. Emergency lights came on all over the bridge. Lisa called from the engine room to say that the shields were holding, but they would not last long against this kind of attack. The aliens were using very powerful weapons. Ben kept sending messages even as more plasma blasts hit the ship. He told the aliens that humans wanted peace. He begged them to stop shooting and talk instead. But the Zephyrians only answered with more weapons fire. Jake realized that talking was not going to work. These aliens had decided to fight, and they were not going to change their minds. The Liberty was in terrible danger, and Jake had to make a choice that would change everything. He looked around the bridge at his crew. Amy was ready to fight back. Ryan had his hand on the weapons controls but was waiting for orders. Ben was still trying to make peace. Lisa was working hard to keep the ship running while enemy fire hit them again and again. Jake took a deep breath and made the decision that would teach the galaxy something new about humans. He pressed the button that would change the ship from exploration mode to combat mode. Warning sounds filled the bridge as the Liberty prepared for war. Jake spoke in a calm voice that his crew would never forget. "Battle stations, everyone. Time to show these aliens what humans do when someone tries to hurt our friends." The Liberty changed from a peaceful exploration ship into something the Zephyrians had never seen before. Jake Morrison stood at the center of the bridge, and his calm voice gave orders that his crew followed without question. The humans were about to show these aliens that Earth's children had learned some very hard lessons about fighting over thousands of years of history. Amy Brooks moved her fingers quickly over her tactical station. Her computer screen filled with numbers and lines that showed how the alien ships were moving. Amy had studied every famous battle that humans had ever fought, from ancient times when people used swords and shields to modern space fights between Earth's different nations. She saw something right away that made her smile, even though they were in great danger. The three Zephyrian ships flew in a perfect triangle shape, each one exactly the same distance from the others. It looked very pretty and showed how well trained their pilots were. But Amy knew that beautiful formations were often death traps. Human military leaders had learned this lesson the hard way in many bloody wars. Amy told Jake what she saw. "Captain, they're flying like they're in a parade, not a battle. Their formation is so perfect that they can't move quickly when they need to. If we can get them to break apart, we can pick them off one at a time." Jake nodded and looked at Ryan Kelly, who was now fully focused on his weapons controls. Ryan had been reading about military strategy since he was a boy, not because he loved war, but because he loved puzzles. Every battle was like a giant chess game, and Ryan was very good at chess. The Zephyrian ships fired their plasma cannons again, and the Liberty shook under the impact. But this time Jake was ready. He called down to Lisa Parker in the engine room. "Lisa, I need everything you can give me. Make this ship dance." Lisa's hands moved over her controls like she was playing a musical instrument. She had been working on these engines for 2 years, and she knew every pipe and wire in the ship. Lisa began doing things with the engines that the people who built them said were impossible. She sent power to the left engines, then the right ones, then the rear ones, making the Liberty spin and twist through space in ways that looked crazy. The Zephyrians had never seen anything like it. Their ships were fast and powerful, but they moved in straight lines and smooth curves. The human ship was dancing through space like a leaf in the wind, and their targeting computers could not keep up with it. Vextal watched from his command ship and felt confused for the first time in his military career. The human ship should have been destroyed by now, but instead it was moving in patterns that made no sense. His weapons officer kept trying to lock onto the target, but every time they were about to fire, the human ship was somewhere else. Ryan Kelly waited and watched the alien ships like a hunter waiting for the perfect moment. He could have fired back right away, but that would have been wasteful. Human military thinking was different from what these aliens expected. Humans had learned to be patient and smart, not just fast and strong. When the Zephyrian ships regrouped for another attack, Ryan saw his chance. The aliens were so focused on getting back into their perfect formation that they forgot to watch for danger. Ryan fired the Liberty's torpedoes, but he did not aim them at the alien ships. Instead, he aimed them at the empty space between the ships. The torpedoes exploded in bright flashes of light and energy. The explosions created clouds of hot gas and metal pieces that spread out in all directions. The Zephyrian ships flew right into these clouds, and suddenly their perfect formation was broken. Small pieces of metal hit their hulls like bullets, and the hot gas made their sensors stop working properly. Now the 3 alien ships were scattered and confused, and Amy Brooks smiled as she watched them try to figure out what had happened. This was exactly what human fighters had been doing to their enemies for thousands of years. Use the enemy's strength against them, turn their advantages into problems. Jake ordered the Liberty to move toward the closest Zephyrian ship. The aliens were still trying to clear their sensors and get back into formation when the human ship appeared right next to them. Ryan fired the ship's energy cannons at close range, hitting the alien ship's weapons before they could fire back. The damaged Zephyrian ship tried to turn away, but Lisa had the Liberty's engines running at full power. The human ship stayed right next to the alien like a fighter pilot from Earth's old wars, making it impossible for the other two alien ships to shoot without hitting their friend. Ben Collins was still at his communication station, but now he was doing something different. Instead of sending peaceful messages, Ben was listening to everything the aliens said to each other. His computer was learning their language faster than the Zephyrians thought possible. Ben was very good at languages, and alien speech was just another puzzle for him to solve. Within minutes, Ben understood enough of their words to know what they were planning. He told Jake and Captain they're calling for help. More ships are coming, and they're very angry that we hurt their friend. Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach, but he did not let it show on his face. His crew was looking at him, and they needed to see that their captain was not afraid. Jake had read about many great military leaders from Earth's history, and he knew that staying calm was the most important thing a leader could do. The damaged Zephyrian ship was trying to escape, but Ryan kept hitting it with careful shots that broke its weapons and engines without killing the crew inside. Humans had rules about fighting that were different from what the aliens expected. Even in battle, humans tried not to kill unless they had no choice. The other two Zephyrian ships were getting desperate. They started firing wildly, trying to hit the Liberty even though their friend was in the way. One of their plasma blasts hit their own damaged ship by mistake, and Vextal felt shame and anger burning in his chest. Amy saw that the aliens were making mistakes because they were scared and angry. This was another lesson that humans had learned in their long history of wars. Enemies who lost their temper also lost their ability to think clearly. She told Jake, "They're falling apart, Captain. Their discipline is breaking down." Jake knew this was the moment to press their advantage. He ordered Lisa to push the engines even harder, and the Liberty began moving between all three alien ships like a shark swimming through a school of fish. Every time the Zephyrians tried to line up a shot, the human ship was already moving to a new position. The first contact between humans and aliens was not going the way anyone had expected. Fleet Commander Vextal felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career: embarrassment. One small alien ship had just outfought 3 of his best warships, and now his damaged vessel was limping away from the battle with its weapons destroyed and its engines barely working. The other commanders in the Zephyrian fleet would hear about this, and Vextal could not let that happen. He opened communication channels to the nearest Zephyrian base and called for immediate reinforcements. His voice was tight with anger as he spoke. "This is Fleet Commander Vextal requesting immediate military support. We have encountered an unknown enemy vessel that is using unconventional tactics. Send 12 ships immediately." The base commander was surprised by this request. Vextal had never needed help before, and 3 Zephyrian warships should have been able to destroy any single enemy vessel. But orders were orders, and within an hour, 12 more Zephyrian ships arrived in the area, their plasma cannons charged and ready for battle. Jake Morrison watched the new ships appear on his sensors and felt his heart sink. 13 enemy ships against 1 was not good odds for anyone, but Jake had spent his whole life studying the stories of human heroes who had faced impossible situations. He thought about Admiral Nelson fighting the entire French fleet at Trafalgar, about Hannibal crossing the mountains with elephants, about every underdog who had ever refused to give up when things looked hopeless. Amy Brooks looked at her tactical display and saw the alien ships spreading out to surround the Liberty. The Zephyrians had learned from their first defeat and were not going to make the same mistakes again. But Amy had been studying human military history since she was a teenager, and she knew that humans had always found ways to turn bad situations into victories. She turned to Jake and said, "Captain, they're trying to surround us, but look at how they're doing it. They're still thinking like this is a normal space battle. They don't understand that we're going to do something they've never seen before." Jake smiled grimly and nodded. He had grown up reading about ancient Earth battles where smart generals had defeated much larger armies by doing unexpected things. The key was not to fight the enemy where they were strong, but to make them fight where they were weak. He ordered Lisa Parker to prepare the engines for something very dangerous. "Lisa, I need you to give me everything the ship has. We're going to do something that will either save us or destroy us, and there's no middle ground." Lisa's voice came back from the engine room, calm and confident. "Just tell me what you need, Captain. These engines will do whatever you ask them to do." Jake looked at the tactical display and saw that the alien ships were moving into a perfect circle around the Liberty. It was exactly what he had hoped they would do. The Zephyrians were still thinking like they were fighting other Zephyrians, using the same tactics that had worked for them for 100 years. Ryan Kelly had his fingers ready on the weapons controls, but he was not thinking about shooting at the enemy ships. Instead, he was thinking about something he had read in an old military book about submarine warfare. Sometimes the best way to fight a bigger enemy was to get so close that they could not use their big weapons without hurting themselves. Jake gave the order that would shock the Zephyrian fleet. "All ahead full. Take us right into the middle of their formation." The Liberty suddenly accelerated toward the center of the alien circle, moving faster than any ship its size should have been able to move. Lisa had pushed the engines beyond their normal limits, and the ship shot forward like an arrow from a bow. The Zephyrians were completely surprised by this move. In all their years of fighting, no enemy had ever charged directly at them. Usually, enemy ships tried to run away or found a safe place to shoot from. The idea of flying right into the middle of a superior force was so crazy that they had no plan for dealing with it. As the Liberty reached the center of the alien formation, Jake ordered the ship to stop suddenly and begin spinning in place. Lisa made the engines fire in different directions, turning the human ship into a spinning top surrounded by confused alien vessels. Now the Zephyrians faced a terrible problem. The human ship was in the exact center of their circle, and if they fired their weapons, they would hit each other instead of hitting their target. The aliens had surrounded the Liberty, but somehow the humans had turned that advantage into a trap. Ryan Kelly began firing the ship's weapons in short, careful bursts. He was not trying to destroy the alien ships, but to damage their weapons and engines just enough to make them less dangerous. Each shot was aimed at a specific target: a plasma cannon here, an engine there, a sensor array somewhere else. Ben Collins had been busy while the shooting was going on. His computer had now learned enough of the Zephyrian language that he could understand most of what they were saying to each other. Better yet, he had figured out their military communication codes and protocols. Ben had always been good at learning languages, but this was the most important translation work he had ever done. Ben turned to Jake with excitement in his voice. "Captain, I can understand them now, and I think I can do something that will really surprise them." Jake nodded for Ben to continue, and Ben began broadcasting messages to the Zephyrian ships. But these were not peaceful messages asking for surrender. Instead, Ben was sending fake military orders in perfect Zephyrian military language, using the correct codes and protocols that he had learned by listening to their communications. Ben's first fake order was simple but effective. "All ships, this is Fleet Command. Execute emergency scatter pattern 7 immediately." 3 of the alien ships, thinking the order was real, broke formation and flew away from the battle to positions that left them isolated and vulnerable. His second fake order was even better. "All ships, be advised that the enemy vessel is broadcasting false commands. Ignore all orders that do not come from your direct superior." This order created confusion because now the Zephyrian captains did not know which orders were real and which were fake. Amy Brooks watched the alien formation fall apart and felt amazed by how well Ben's plan was working. The Zephyrians were now shooting at empty space, running into each other, and arguing over their communication channels about which orders to follow. But Amy also saw something on her long-range sensors that made her worried. More alien ships were coming, and these ones looked bigger and more dangerous than the first group. Amy counted them quickly and felt her heart beat faster. "Captain, we have 36 more enemy ships approaching fast. This is going to be the entire Zephyrian battle fleet." Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. His crew was brave and smart, but even humans had limits. Fighting 13 ships had been hard enough. Fighting 49 ships would be almost impossible, no matter how clever they were. But Jake also remembered something his grandfather had told him about the human spirit. "We don't fight because we know we can win. We fight because we know it's right, and sometimes that makes all the difference." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew and saw determination in their eyes. They were afraid, but they were not going to give up. They had come to the stars to make friends, but if they had to fight to protect themselves and their mission, they would fight with everything they had. The massive Zephyrian battle fleet arrived like a storm of metal and energy. 36 powerful warships that had never known defeat. Each ship was larger than the Liberty, with weapons that could destroy a city and armor that had never been broken by enemy fire. The combined firepower of this fleet could turn a planet into dust, and now it was all focused on one small human ship. Grand Admiral Zexmar commanded this fleet from his flagship, a vessel so large that it carried its own fighter squadrons and manufacturing facilities. Zexmar had conquered entire star systems with this fleet, and he could not believe that one alien ship had caused so much trouble for the Empire. He intended to end this embarrassment quickly and completely. Jake Morrison looked at his tactical display and saw the impossible odds they now faced. 49 enemy ships against one was beyond hopeless. But Jake had spent his life studying the stories of humans who had faced death and chosen to fight anyway. He thought about the Spartans at Thermopylae, about the pilots who had defended Britain in the Old World Wars, about every person who had ever stood up to a bully even when they knew they might lose. Amy Brooks studied the approaching fleet and began looking for weaknesses. The alien ships were powerful, but they were also predictable. They moved in the same formations that had worked for them for decades, and Amy began to see patterns that could be exploited. The key was not to fight them where they were strong, but to make them fight in places where their size and numbers would work against them. She turned to Jake and said, "Captain, there's an asteroid field about 10 minutes away at maximum speed. If we can reach it, their big ships won't be able to use their formation tactics." Jake nodded and ordered Lisa Parker to prepare for another dangerous high-speed run. Lisa's voice came back from the engine room. "Captain, the engines are already running beyond their design limits. If I push them much harder, we might have problems." Jake made the decision that every good captain has to make sometimes. Accept a known risk to avoid a certain disaster. "Do it, Lisa. We'll worry about fixing the engines later if we live long enough." The Liberty shot toward the asteroid field like a comet, with the entire Zephyrian fleet pursuing close behind. The aliens fired their long-range weapons, and space around the human ship filled with plasma blasts and energy beams. Lisa made the ship twist and turn through the incoming fire, using every trick she had learned in 2 years of working with these engines. Ryan Kelly watched the asteroid field, growing larger on his screen, and began thinking about tactics that human submarine captains had used in Earth's ancient ocean wars. Submarines had been small and weak compared to the big surface ships that hunted them, but smart submarine captains had learned to use the ocean itself as a weapon. As the Liberty reached the edge of the asteroid field, Jake ordered the ship to dive deep into the rocky maze. The asteroids were huge chunks of stone and metal, some as large as mountains, spinning slowly through space in patterns that had not changed for millions of years. The Zephyrian fleet followed, confident that their superior numbers would overwhelm the human ship even in this difficult terrain. But Grand Admiral Zexmar soon discovered that fighting in an asteroid field was very different from fighting in open space. The big alien ships had trouble moving between the asteroids without hitting them. Their perfect formations became impossible to maintain when they had to dodge around giant rocks. Worse yet, their long-range weapons were useless because the asteroids blocked their shots. Jake ordered Amy to plot a course through the narrowest passages she could find, places where only 1 or 2 enemy ships could follow at a time. The Liberty began threading its way through gaps that seemed impossible, guided by Amy's tactical genius and Lisa's perfect control of the engines. The Zephyrians tried to follow, but their larger ships could not fit through the same spaces. The fleet that had been 49 ships strong was now broken into small groups, each one trying to find its own way through the asteroid maze. Ryan Kelly smiled as he saw the first group of alien ships coming through a narrow passage behind them. This was exactly what he had hoped for, a place where the enemy's numbers meant nothing because they could only attack a few at a time. He waited until the lead alien ship was perfectly positioned, then fired a torpedo not at the ship, but at the huge asteroid next to it. The explosion cracked the asteroid and sent thousands of rock fragments flying in all directions. The alien ship's shields protected it from the smaller pieces, but several big chunks of stone hit its hull and damaged its engines. The damaged ship began drifting sideways, blocking the passage and trapping the ships behind it. Ryan had just turned the asteroids themselves into weapons, using the enemy's own environment against them. Ben Collins had been monitoring Zephyrian communications, and he could hear the confusion and frustration in their voices. The alien captains were arguing with each other about which way to go, and their careful military discipline was breaking down under the stress of fighting in terrain they did not understand. Ben sent more fake orders to add to their confusion. All ships, enemy vessel is using gravitational mines. Maintain distance of 5 kilometers from all asteroids. This false warning made many of the alien ships slow down and become even more cautious, giving the Liberty more time to set up its next surprise. Jake ordered the ship to go completely silent, shutting down all non-essential systems and drifting quietly among the asteroids like a ghost. This was a tactic that human submarine captains had perfected during Earth's old wars. Disappear into the environment and let the enemy come looking for you. The Liberty drifted in the shadow of a massive asteroid, its engines cold and its weapons powered down. To the Zephyrian sensors, it looked like just another piece of space rock floating in the darkness. 3 alien ships passed nearby, searching for the human vessel with their sensors scanning in all directions. Their captains were frustrated and angry, not used to fighting an enemy that seemed to appear and disappear like magic. When the alien ships were in exactly the right position, Jake gave Ryan the signal. The Liberty's engines roared back to life and the ship emerged from its hiding place like a predator striking from ambush. Ryan fired all weapons at once, hitting the 3 surprised alien ships before they could react. The Zephyrians had never fought an enemy that used the battlefield itself as a weapon. They were used to open space battles where the strongest ships won through superior firepower. Fighting in the asteroid field was like trying to fight a war in a dark forest, where the trees themselves were on the enemy's side. Amy guided the Liberty through passages that seemed impossible, using gravitational effects from the larger asteroids to change direction without using the engines. She was turning the entire asteroid field into a giant machine that helped the human ship move, while making it harder for the aliens to follow. More, Zephyrian ships suffered damage as they tried to navigate the treacherous maze. Some hit asteroids while trying to pursue the Liberty. Others were caught by Ryan's carefully placed shots that used the environment to multiply their effectiveness. For the first time in their history, the Zephyrian fleet was being defeated not by superior technology or numbers, but by superior thinking and creativity. Grand Admiral Zexmar stared at his tactical display in disbelief as he watched his mighty fleet being torn apart by a single enemy ship. 12 of his vessels were now drifting in space with damaged engines or destroyed weapons, and the others were scattered throughout the asteroid field. Unable to maintain formation or coordinate their attacks, the Admiral had commanded fleets for 30 years and had never seen anything like this. The human ship seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once, striking without warning and then vanishing back into the rocky maze. His captains were reporting tactics they had never encountered before. Enemies that hid in asteroid shadows, weapons that used space rocks as ammunition, and false communications that turned his own ships against each other. Zexmar made a decision that no Zephyrian commander had made in over a century. He ordered his fleet to retreat. The cost of continuing this battle was becoming too high, and he needed time to understand what kind of enemy they were really fighting. But Jake Morrison was not finished teaching the aliens about human warfare. He had studied the military campaigns of Earth's greatest generals, and he knew that winning a battle was not enough. To win a war, you had to make sure the enemy could not come back stronger later. As the Zephyrian ships began to pull back from the asteroid field, Jake ordered Amy Brooks to plot an intercept course. The Liberty emerged from hiding and began pursuing the retreating fleet, moving like a hunter following wounded prey. Ryan Kelly targeted the alien supply ships and communication vessels first, knowing that these were the ships that kept a fleet working together. Without supplies and communication, even the strongest warships would become helpless. His shots were precise and careful, designed to disable rather than destroy, but effective enough to cripple the fleet's ability to fight as a coordinated force. Ben Collins continued broadcasting false orders that made the retreat even more chaotic. He told some ships to go one direction while ordering others to go somewhere else. He created fake emergency calls that made ships waste time responding to problems that did not exist. The organized Zephyrian fleet was becoming a confused mob of individual ships all trying to escape in different directions. Lisa Parker pushed the Liberty's engines to their absolute limits, keeping up with ships that should have been much faster. She had been working with these engines for so long that she could feel what they needed before the computer displays told her. The ship responded to her touch like a living thing, dancing through space with grace and power that amazed even her crewmates. Amy guided them through the pursuit with the skill of a master tactician, predicting where the enemy ships would go and positioning the Liberty to cause maximum disruption. She had studied every famous pursuit in military history, from ancient cavalry charges to modern space battles, and she used all of that knowledge to turn the Zephyrian retreat into a complete rout. The aliens were learning something new about human nature. Humans did not just fight to defend themselves. They fought to win completely. When humans went to war, they did not stop until their enemies could no longer threaten them or anyone else. Fleet Commander Vextel, whose defeat had started this entire battle, found his damaged ship surrounded by debris from other Zephyrian vessels. His weapons were gone, his engines were failing, and his crew was injured. For the first time in his military career, he was completely helpless. The Liberty appeared next to his ship like a ghost, materializing from the darkness. Vextel expected to be destroyed immediately, but instead he received a communication from the human captain on a frequency that should have been impossible for aliens to know. Jake Morrison's voice came through the speakers in perfect Zephyrian language. "Commander Vextel, this is Captain Morrison of the human vessel Liberty. Your ship is disabled and your fleet is scattered. Surrender now and we will provide medical assistance to your wounded." Vextel could not believe what he was hearing. In Zephyrian culture, defeated enemies were always destroyed or enslaved. The idea that a victorious enemy would offer help to the people who had just tried to kill them was completely foreign to everything he understood about warfare. Jake continued, "We did not come here to fight you, Commander. We came in peace, hoping to make friends. You chose to attack us first, and we defended ourselves. But the battle is over now, and we choose mercy over revenge." These words hit Vextel harder than any weapon could have. His entire understanding of the universe was built on the idea that strength was the only thing that mattered, that the strong always destroyed the weak. But these humans had proven they were stronger, and instead of destroying him, they were offering to help heal his wounds. Amy Brooks monitored the communications from the scattered Zephyrian fleet and reported to Jake, "Captain, they're not regrouping for another attack. They're actually sending messages to their home base, asking for instructions about how to deal with an enemy that fights like this." Jake nodded and made the decision that would change galactic history forever. He ordered Ben to open a communication channel to the entire Zephyrian fleet and began speaking in their language. "This is Captain Jake Morrison representing the human species. We have demonstrated that we can defend ourselves, but that is not why we came to your space. We came seeking friendship and peaceful cooperation." Jake continued, "We offer you a choice. You can continue to see us as enemies and face the consequences of that decision, or you can accept our offer of peace and learn what it means to have humans as allies instead of opponents." Grand Admiral Zexmar listened to these words from his flagship and felt something he had never experienced before. Respect for an enemy. The humans had defeated his entire fleet, but instead of gloating about their victory, they were offering partnership. It was a level of tactical and strategic thinking that the Zephyrian Empire had never encountered. Over the following days, Zexmar and other high-ranking Zephyrian officers met with Jake and his crew aboard the Liberty. They came expecting to negotiate the terms of their surrender, but instead they found themselves discussing the possibilities of cooperation between their species. Lisa Parker showed them how human engineering could improve their ship's efficiency. Amy Brooks shared tactical knowledge that could help them defend their territory more effectively. Ben Collins demonstrated communication techniques that could prevent future misunderstandings. Ryan Kelly taught them about precision weapons that could disable enemies without unnecessary killing. The meetings changed both species forever. The Zephyrians learned that true strength came not from the ability to destroy, but from the wisdom to know when to fight and when to forgive. The humans learned that their greatest victory was not defeating the alien fleet, but turning enemies into allies. Within months, the Zephyrian Empire signed a mutual defense treaty with Earth. Human tactical advisors were stationed on Zephyrian ships, while alien engineers helped improve human technology. The galaxy watched in amazement as two species that had almost destroyed each other became close partners in exploring and protecting their corner of the universe. Jake Morrison returned to Earth as a hero, but he always said that the real victory belonged to his entire crew. They had shown the galaxy that humans brought something special to the community of intelligent species: the ability to fight fiercely when necessary, but also the wisdom to choose peace when possible. Years later, when young officers from many different species attended the new Galactic Military Academy, they all learned about the battle between the Liberty and the Zephyrian fleet. It became the most famous example of how superior tactics and strategic thinking could overcome superior numbers and firepower. But the most important lesson was not about fighting techniques or weapon systems. The most important lesson was about the human way of war: fight hard enough to win respect, then be generous enough to earn friendship. It was a lesson that changed the galaxy forever,